Okay, so in this next video, we're going to continue on the Pythagorean theorem in the context of finding area. And so this is just a quick review of finding area, right? So finding the area of a rectangle, right, most of you guys know it's just the base times the height. Okay, so the area of a rectangle is base times height. And if you take a look, right, what I do is I take my rectangle and I cut it in half. And if I cut it in half, right, I'm actually going to have a triangle. And so if I ask you, hey, what is the area of the triangle? You wouldn't say base times height again, right? Because this triangle is exactly 1/2 the area of a rectangle. The area of a triangle is just 1/2 base times height. Okay, so just quickly, just deriving where that formula comes from, it's basically half the area of a rectangle. And over here, I kind of have a triangle that's kind of slanted. The height is always the perpendicular distance from a point or vertice on the triangle to the other side. So you could say the distance from here to here would be the height. And then maybe this would be called a base. Okay, so if you have a weird triangle like this, you could always rotate it, call this bottom part the base, and then call this guy the height. Okay, so area is still 1/2 base times height. Again, the height is the perpendicular distance from the vertex of a triangle to the opposite side. Okay, so it has to be perpendicular to the opposite side. Okay, so let's take a look, right? Given that L is the leg and H is the hypotenuse, find the area round to the nearest tenth if necessary, right? And so, you know, if you're a visual learner like myself, I would just draw the picture out. Okay, if they give you the hypotenuse is 16, and L is a leg, we'll call it 8 meters, right? It doesn't really matter if you call this 8 or that 8. Okay, so this is a right triangle, by the way. The problem stated it was a right triangle. I just didn't write it out. And you want to find the area. Well, over here, if you're given a hypotenuse, right, you can't just say the area is 1/2 16 times 8. I need to calculate what this is. Okay, so I have to use my Pythagorean theorem. And I call this the base and I call this the height. Okay, so using my Pythagorean theorem, 16 squared is equal to 8 squared, and we'll just call this x squared. Okay, so 64 plus x squared, 16 squared, I believe is 256. Okay, so 256 minus 64 will give you 192. And if you take the square root of both sides, the square root of 192, you're going to get about 13.856. Okay, so that's this length right here, right? Actually, you could just write it as the square root of 192 for now. So the area of this triangle, right, is 1/2. This is root 192, by the way. Base, which is root 192. And then times the height. What's the height of the triangle? Don't say it's 16, it's actually 8. Okay, so 4 times root 192. You're going to get approximately 55.4 meters squared. Okay, so area is always in terms of square footage or square inches. Could you have called this the base? If you called this guy the base, then this guy would be the height. It's still 1/2 8 times root 192. Okay. All right, moving on. Okay, so you kind of have a weird shape over here. It kind of looks like a trapezoid. In fact, it is a trapezoid. There's actually a formula for a trapezoid. And what I would do is I would split this up into 2 separate shapes. And I could say, hey, find the area of the rectangle and plus the area of the triangle for this next example. Okay, so the area of the figure is the area of the rectangle plus the area of the triangle. Okay, so if I ask you, what is the area of this rectangle right here? Well, you would say that's just 8 times 12, right? Right, this is the base, this is the height. Now to compute the area of the triangle, right, I need to figure out what this length is. And then I can figure out, you know, using the formula 1/2 base times height, right? 1/2 base times height. The height of this triangle right here, right? If this is 12, this guy right here is also 12. So the only thing I need is this B right here, right? And the way you calculate B, right? If the distance from here to here is 18 and distance from here to here is 8, B has to be 10. Okay, so hopefully you can kind of see that, right? You kind of draw a dashed line. Right, 10 plus 8 will give you 18, or you could just do 18 minus 8 is 10. So this guy right here is just 10. And then you can do the math, right? 96, half of 10 is 5, 5 times 12 is 60. You're going to get 156. Make sure you write the units inches squared. Okay, so for a problem like this, it's helpful to split up into 2 separate shapes. Because I haven't gone over the formula of a trapezoid with you, you split it up. Draw a dashed line, area of the rectangle plus the area of the triangle. Again, the tricky part is calling this B, and 18 minus 8 will give you 10. And then you just do 1/2 10 times 12.